Hello, welcome yet again, dear faithful viewer to well, my room yet again. Now a bit messier. Stuff I pulled in from the car. Hopefully, I'll have a new job on my weekend morning. But until then, let's just get down to the rant, shall we? I always put you over there. Here, put you over here. This will be better for you. Yeah, that's better. A bit more social, and you get the fan in the shot. Anyway, uh, enough punning aside. Let's get down to brass tacks. What it will be today: success and quality and time. I've watched a few documentaries, and I feel rather inspired. Let's say, um, to talk about how certain projects have been happening since, well, let's go as far back as Disney. So that's been about 80 years now, I think, something like that. Uh, Not exactly the establishment of the Walt Disney Company necessarily, but a little bit before that. But uh, it's show it. I want to talk about the concept of hard work, basically. I mean, if you put enough time, effort, and a shit ton of money into something, you will get, your quality back as well as your audience. Now, I said this before to a guy in, I forget what his name was. I'm sorry, I'm blanking. If you're watching this, I'm sorry if I'm blanking on it. But he used to be one of the managers of a library. Those the Central Library here in Anaheim. Um, and I said that the animation process, along with the production process, is like a French braid or weave or whatever. It's the three braids, and they all just, you know, interweave into each other. And because, if you put in the talent, you know, the time, and you know everything else, one affects the other, affects the other, affects the other. So you have the process, the animation process, and you have the writing. What is your story you're trying to tell with your medium, which is animation, and then you get your audience. And the amount of money you put in is also going to be the time and money you get out. So each one affects the other. So as far back as even Disney, like the man knew, he stumbled across what grandeur is. Not grandeur, recipe for success. That's what it was success. And I said this before. He says, okay, we have this basic rough outline of what success looks like. If we do this animation process with the right kind of character, we animate it and write it in these amounts of good humor and adventure and likability, we can actually become popular, like really popular, more popular than we are now. But of course, he only believed that. Again, corporate America, who believe they know best, have the final say. And then they're like, no, Disney, we don't believe in you, and cut 20% of your gang. That's it. Bye. That's what we believe. As time will tell, that's not the last grave mistake corporate America will ever make. ah! So Disney quit. He left, and he founded his own company. He was independent, and he was brought in, and then he left again to be more independent with his team. But now he knows what success was, because before he was struggling with success. He didn't know what amounts to what is, what is success. Like, what is the proper ingredients? How much comedy? What likable character? What type of character? What story setting? What anything can amount to success? He now has a good idea with that. So then when he came out and says, I can't do Oswald, I think it was Paramount or somebody else owns it. Then they did Mickey Mouse, and they said, okay, these are the right ingredients. A little fine tuning here, a little sandblasting there. Pump that out. Hey, a long-lasting 80-year franchise. Need I say more? Now, because it was known for quality. Now, let's fast forward to the 80s. I know. Now, before the 80s, even up into the early 70s, Disney, this whole shelf right here, all that, was already previously done. So Disney had established itself as a powerhouse. You know Disney, it equals quality. Okay, cool. But then in the mid to late 70s, we've had some minor successes, not blockbusters. Not like it was before. You know, with Peter Pan and everything else. So in the 70s, you see kind of petering out where it's like the stories are good, not blockbuster good, but good enough to say that they're still quality. You would still say that with all their products. Until the Black Cauldron. Now, the Black Cauldron was its lowest point. That was early 80s. That was like 84 or something like that. But also right around that time was also when they're starting production, or at least the concept, of Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Now, as a child, I never actually saw any current 80s Disney film in that time. In those first 8 years of my life, I don't recall they were saying, "Oh, look, the Rescuers." And we totally need to go see that in theaters. You know, maybe we did. I don't know, but I don't remember it being a big event. Now, my introduction to the Disney, catalog of movies before I was born and after I was born wasn't until the late 80s, early 90s when we moved here, when we had them all on VHS. Before that, it was all on the Disney Channel, which I also used to watch religiously, along with a couple others. So I knew the past Disney film existed, but there weren't any current ones that I was really aware of. I look back on that now saying, yeah, there was nothing from the 80s that I said was totally totes, the Disney brand. It wasn't until Oliver and Company, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and The Little Mermaid that I realized these were Disney products. Because, yeah, I recognized, Mickey Mouse and Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I know this was a collaboration between the two even then. Because crossovers rarely ever happen, especially between studios, Warner Brothers, and Disney. When did they ever do that before or since? Hell, they harpooned Wild Horses. Oh, what's that called? The superhero one where the lady kind of hulks out but doesn't change color. Um, I'll remember it. But yeah, that whole thing. That's because Buena Vista was working with Warner Brothers or something like that, and they said they didn't want to work with the competition, so they sent it off to Australia and Europe because they couldn't do that. They couldn't help the competition. That's what they said. Mine was that it was Buena Vista Home Entertainment. It was a family flick, and this is not a family flick. On-screen gore and nudity. Well, censored nudity, but still. Uh, yeah, it was a pilot for Wildstorm. No, it's Wild. No. Dark Horses. Something Storm. Storm. It was a superhero thing. They eventually made it part of the DCU where it says, oh, three stories were supposed to be together. Like always. It's like, no, you're adding that in now. Stop saying that. Anyway, sorry. I'm ranting. That aside, so until the late 80s, did Disney actually become a household brand name of, oh, they're now doing a new thing, and it's great. You know, Oliver and Company. Who Framed Roger was awesome. I love that. And again, Oliver and Company was not was one of the more latest stuff, but it was not a blockbuster. It did good, and sometimes kind of great, but not over the top. That was when Roger Rabbit. That's when you realize, hey, Disney still got it, or at least be able to help collaborate to make it. I was getting a bit winded here. I'm sorry. Uh, but it wasn't until Little Mermaid smash hit. Everyone loved it because it was a good feeling film. It wasn't pretentious. It was just a good Disney film. Again, a bit simplistic in its love story because we can't really have a life story without it being disguised as an action. It's an action film disguised as a love story. Basically, that's what a lot of the Disney stories are. Sorry, but yeah, it's not really a love story until it's it's covered by the action. bit of a bait and switch, but it still is a damn good story. Well, then later on until the late 90s with the girl power, you actually see girls taking chances and the guys also taking chances of actually fighting the forces of evil to actually win the day and love. Yeah. So you can see the progression there. Anyway, point is, Disney's now the powerhouse. Now, let's backtrack again. Industrial Light and Magic back in the 60s and 70s when, sorry, in the 70s, mid 70s, when George Lucas went off to go do Star Wars. Okay, how did, and I saw the documentary on it, why they made, George Lucas's backstory episode 2. Seems a little weird, but whatever. So, he goes and goes off to go do Star Wars. After being put on, again, he had talent, and then Hollywood took uh, um, awareness of his talent in THX. In THX, they realized his talent. Then they said, "Okay, kid, we'll give you a shot. We'll do your story called Star Wars." Okay, so he goes off to freaking Monaco or whatever to go shoot Star Wars, and in England to do the sets, the stage sets, and all that. So he's off shooting the live action sequences. He says, "I hires one guy to make an effect studio while he's gone, gives him the budget, gives him the time, and says, do this, and I'm gone." And that's pretty much the impression I got off the documentary in the beginning was he knew someone with talent. He said, you're going to have to build a scene from scratch, go do it. Off of what qualities, I don't know. But he says, okay, and he gets on his phone, he calls contacts. I know this guy. Hey, do you know anybody else who's willing to work in this content? I need to hire people like now. So he calls people, and those people call other people, which call other people. So you have this cobbled together people who weren't really working too much, and people who were. They said, well, these are people with talent. Good, cool. Come on over. And when they get there, they realize, okay, we're building this setup from scratch. We're building the walls. We're putting this whole thing together. We have to actually invent the technology to do it. And it's like, okay. So no wonder, 6 to 8 months later, when George Lucas comes back from filming all of his live action shots for the film, he comes back and they have 2 to 3 shots made. Because it took so long to actually create the technology to actually do what they wanted to do. So all they had was that. And it's like, but it's only half the time. What about, so they said, now that we got it, again, it's not incremental, but exponential growth. Now they got the basis down, then, it goes up like that. So, exponential growth factor. So, now they got everything laid out, and they start churning out these scenes, one after another, after another, after another. They build, design, everything in-house. They get it all done under the wire, barely. And again, smash hit, because you have those people putting quality. They put in time and effort. And what you get out, again, with good writing of your medium, is success. Hey, look at that. And then George Lucas becomes not only a Hollywood kind of, this new guy, to household name of George Lucas's epic saga, Star Wars. So again, here, let me stop it now, and then I'll upload this, and I'll do part 2 in a bit.